Good to go.
All right, thank you. So, hi, everybody. So I'm going to call the Neary Building Committee Finance Subcommittee to order on March 15th at 7:34 p.m. So I think this is going to be another quick meeting, which is nice compared to what we usually sit through. Okay, so the first item is to approve the minutes from 2/15/24 that I distributed, that Mariana did so nicely for us.
Yep.
Andrew?
Quick look, dead no issues. You find anything?
Nope, no, perfect.
All right. I move that we approve the minutes from Thursday, January 11th, as written.
2:15, Andrew. It's 2:15 you're approving for. You said January 11th.
That's the one that you sent out, right?
No. Well, I hope not.
That's the one I got in my email.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at the package I sent you and it does say 2:15.
Unless I'm looking at the wrong email. Hold on.
I think you're looking at the wrong email.
No, I'm looking at the email at the top result, which is the first one, not the.
I don't know why it does that, you know?
Yeah, always.
It's very confusing.
We get the. When did you send those out?
Monday.
From you?
Yep. But I'm going to send again. So,
Okay, there it is. This is it.
You got it?
Yes. Oh, that's the agenda. Oh, there's a meeting minutes. Okay, that was in the file. Okay. Do we still need to put the acts of 2021 thing?
Probably not.
I always do, but I don't know.
I know. I think it does habit. I don't know why you would.
Not that we need to edit it for this one, but
Yeah, so I'll
for Jim. Not your Jim Haggerty. Yeah, looks good to me.
all right now.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes for Thursday, February 15th, as written.
Second. All in favor? Andrew?
Aye.
Roll call, that is. Andrew's aye. I'm aye. So 2-0 to approve the minutes from 2:15 as written.
All right.
All right, that's good. Okay, next thing is we've got 3 invoices to approve tonight. Skanska's monthly invoice, and we've got the first one from Arrow Street, and we've got the deposit for the company that's doing the website design. You want to look at those for a minute, Andrew? Or you're okay with them?
Yeah, I mean the website design one we've already done, so we don't really need to do it again unless you really want to ratify it.
Let's ratify. And you saw what I did this week, which is approve the up to $500 to actually get the domain set.
Yeah.
Is that cost expended, or that's just what we're going to have to pay? Because we'll just have to include it in an invoice package just for our records.
I don't think it's quite expended yet because you saw I said up to, so I haven't seen invoice. Jason just asked me if they could get it going, so I don't know where it stands as far as truly expending it. I think they're pretty much all set up.
No problem. Just one point of clarification, because you'll see the same number. Arrow Street's contract is a fixed fee lump sum. So they're different than our contract, which is hourly. So just when we're looking at these invoices, they'll be the same amount every month, depending on which phase they're in. So just in case anybody.
I didn't realize that. So they literally are going to divide it by 12 months or so?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, contractually they have a different contract with the MSBA.
So they're fixed bid, not time materials.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I wonder what their hourly rate is going to be when they get through with this one. But anyway, this is what they sign on for the bigger project, right?
Yep.
This is their investment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, Andrew, are you okay with all 3?
So the 3 are the Skanska, Arrow Street, and 2x16, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, as long as Jim, we're within budget and everything looks good.
Yep, within budget.
Okay, I move that Neary Finance Subcommittee approves the Skanska invoice from 3/7 for the amount of $24,460. The Arrow Street invoice on 3/8 in the amount of $44,280, and the 2x16 invoice from March 1st in the amount of $3,000.
Second. Roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Cook is aye, 2-0. This is pretty funny.
No discussion, Kathy?
Yeah, no discussion for me. So Jim, as far as your time, Skanska's time, since you guys are hourly billing and there is no cap on what you can bill, we've got a budget, but no cap. You think you're doing fine as far as what you guys anticipated, compared to where you are at this point?
Yep. Yeah, so our contract, we can't exceed the overall fee value without a change order. So just, so yeah, we track it on a monthly basis as to, what our planned expenditures were per month. So yeah, we're on track so far.
Good. I mean, I realize that's what the contract says, but it still doesn't mean that you haven't incurred more time than you expected and then would anticipate a change order, but so far so good.
Yeah, so yeah,
Your burn
we're
rate
definitely
is what's expected. You're not burning too hot.
100%. Yep, exactly.
All right, so I think it's worth maybe, Andrew, just looking at the budget again, as far as where we are. We basically have spent all of the warrant article money except for $7,000. That's our cushion right now, which is not much of a cushion. If there is a phase 2, we obviously don't have enough money for that, so we'll have to figure that piece of it out when we get to that point. Which is my question, Jim. At what point do you think the phase 1 will be done?
So by phase 1, you mean feasibility study, schematic design?
Well, phase 1's no site, so I assume that's environmental.
Oh, yes. Yep. Yeah. So phase 1 will be complete in the feasibility study. If we go forward, the more in-depth phase 2 of the environmental study would be during detailed design after the vote. We were talking through this with Arrow Street just the other day about how we can leverage what we're doing, because obviously our budget is limited in this. So in the next phase, if the vote is successful, we would have a more detailed environmental study on the site.
Okay, so that's how we're going to solve that. So when you say we discussed, who was we?
We have a weekly meeting, so it's us and Arrow Street, just talking about the scope of the supplemental services that we presented, and how to best use those funds to get the most information out of the feasibility study to inform the budget for the options and the ultimate preferred option.
So that meeting is just between Skanska and Arrow Street. There's no NBC member that's part of that?
No, this was just an initial discussion because we haven't quite gotten there. Obviously, when it we'll discuss that in the working group, and then obviously for the full building committee when we get closer to that point when we're doing all those environmental studies.
Okay. All right. So any questions, Andrew, on the overall budget?
No.
I do have. Oh,
do you have the usual, Jim? The usual slides that you have for the budget?
Yeah, I was just going to pull that up.
That's in the invoice package, right?
Do you look at what I sent you? It's got that in it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see it now.
Could I have share rights? Because I do have it pulled up. Just
we can.
Absolutely. Oh, Andrew's got to do that. Sorry, I thought I had to do it. Yes, you can. Andrew will do it for you.
All right. There we go. All right. Yeah. So this is our budget tracker that we document. Yeah. So total project budget, total committed to date is $942,818. So like you said, a little better than $7,000 in there, and total spent to date of 114. So and then we also track, all the contracts, how much we've billed to date based on progress. So yeah, we're in good shape. We did meet this week with Becky and Carla with the town. to just make sure we reconcile, and we'll probably do it monthly, to make sure that the expenditures and committed on the town side, their accounting matches ours, to make sure that there's no discrepancies, nothing's hitting the job that we don't know about, and vice versa. So yeah, it was a quick call, but if you get it set up, then going forward, we will just have a quick call every month to make sure that we're in line. Because you just don't want, the district to have $10,000 worth of cost that we don't have, and when we're looking at this document, why is that hitting the job? And especially with how close we are total project budget to committed, where we don't have a whole lot of wiggle room there. So we met that this week. They're going to set it up, and then it should just be a regular meeting going forward. But like I said, we're in good shape spending wise to date.
So that's a good idea, that you're going to have that monthly meeting to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the same number. Because, in the end, you say district, in the end, this building or the project will be on the town's books, not necessarily. Because, that our K-8 is part of the town. It's not a separate school district like our high school is. Okay, so that is a great idea. So good job on that. So the spreadsheet that you sent, which Andrew, I may not have forwarded to you. There you
I had
go.
it.
Okay, so is this the 311? This is what goes in with the 311? Is this what it looks like?
Yep, this is the 3011. So this is how we're required per the MSBA to enter the budget. As we go through, we'll start to populate this with options when we start to get estimates. The key piece to this, though, is until we send it to the MSBA and they agree with what's on it, it's not official. So whatever the town share grant value is determined by the MSBA. We can input all the data to give us, a range or a ballpark of where we're going to land. But this document's purpose ultimately is to get to what the MSBA's grant will be. And so I can run through it quickly. There's a lot, like I was saying in the beginning, there's a lot here. And it's a little confusing how they lay it out. But we've input the estimated budget for feasibility.
Yeah, I think we get that. Andrew and I are both pretty financially savvy.
Okay.
So we do for living. I get that. But so overall, when are you going to send the first request in? So we are required for the PDP submission. What does PDP stand for?
So that's preliminary design program. Okay. So that's the one that's going in May that has all the options. So we have to report what each estimate came in at. This 3011 really doesn't get finalized until the preferred schematic report. So that is when you select an option and then proceed with that. But what we do is we populate this with all the options as we go, so the town and district can start to understand, the effects of, if there's square footage for the gymnasium, say, or cafeteria is over, that's non-reimbursable. How does that affect the grant? So it's not an official document until we submit for the project scope and budget. We use this like I said, as a tool throughout the process to start to gauge where we're going to land. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if the town didn't vote for the project, it voted it down, right? We go to town meeting, that the town says no. Do we get reimbursed anything at that point?
Yeah. So you get reimbursed through feasibility.
Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get to. When do you submit a request for reimbursement for the feasibility?
So we've already started that process. So we try and do it monthly when the bills start to come in. I think we might be, I think there was a little confusion with who had to approve it. That was the discussion that we had with Greg, because anything that goes in on they call it ProPay, progress payments. Anything that goes in on a ProPay request, this group has already approved as an invoice. So Greg initially thought that the finance subcommittee had to approve each ProPay request, which they're all approved invoices anyways, so it's just duplicating efforts. So, but yeah,
You told him, no, that wasn't the case. We'd already done our job, right?
correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me see, I did have this pulled up. Yeah, so we submitted our first one February. Well, this is when the electronic request went in. I think the physical signed one went in a couple weeks ago. This was February 1st in the amount of 33,000. So they'll come back and then it'll show what the MSBA payment amount is. And like I said, we try our best to do that monthly so that we can keep up with the cash flow.
Okay, so you're telling me you do electronically and they make you then follow it up with hard copy?
No, electronic signed copy.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
All
so
right,
it has to go over via email.
And who's going to track the checks coming back to make sure they come back like they should?
So typically that would be Carla, because they'll be deposited back in. And out of this,
Okay, but how is Carla going to know what they should be? Is what I'm trying to get to. Is she going to know? Does she have access to ProPay also? How is she going to know what's supposed to come back?
Yeah, so that's a good point. We would probably just make that as part of the reconciliation meeting.
I
Say,
would.
yeah, exactly.
I would absolutely make
Yeah.
sure she knows what's supposed to come back so she can check it off.
Yep, and when they come back, we can we can export everything that's in here that shows what was submitted, what was reimbursed, and the total payment. So we can distribute that to her prior to the reconciliation meetings, and yeah, make sure that aligns. That's a good idea for sure.
Okay, now the 39.84%, that's real at this point. It's done. That's what our rate is.
Yes, yep, that's within the feasibility study agreement that was executed by the district and town. That's the reimbursement rate for the duration of a feasibility study.
And then it could change as far as the project itself.
Yes, so that's this section over here.
Can
when
we
you
walk
go
through
to-
that?
What,
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. I was like, yeah, let's walk through that section.
Okay, yeah, I can walk through that. Yeah, like you said, both of you guys are finance. So these are just the various categories, and all this will get populated as we continue through detailed design. So this, we're only up in this section right now, obviously, until the project gets approved.
Yeah.
So this first one, so what this gets to again is calculates your grant. So anything that is non-reimbursable is decreased from the grant, and that's really the function of this. So the soft cost reimbursement, they cap you for overall soft cost at 20%. So if we're at 22% of construction, that 2% is on the district non-reimbursable, so that decreases the grant.
Okay, but you don't know what the construction cost is when you submit the reimbursement request for the soft cost. So do they true it up later? They basically assume that you're going to be within the 20% when they reimburse you? Until they go differently?
So when this gets approved, this becomes your project scope and budget. So this is your budget. So we are tied to each one of these budget lines. So if we have, owner's project manager, when we input all of this, that is the budget that we have to stick to. We can't exceed it. And if we do, then yes, it's non-reimbursable if we exceed any of those budget lines.
But obviously, we're not going to see that for a long time.
Correct.
So we'll get our 39.84 on the 950 without much of an issue, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So so if all those items get input here, construction costs associated with soft cost cap, that's pretty straightforward. It's just entering all that in as another check on the 20%. So this one is important. The scope excluded OPM and designer costs. So as a percentage, so if you have spaces that are non-reimbursable, they will recoup a portion of our fee and the architect's fee that is related to those areas as a percentage.
Even,
so-
even the feasibility phase piece, when you're trying to figure out what
No,
you're trying to
no.
do?
No, so this is all post, yeah, when you're finalizing the project scope and budget. So
Alright.
that, yeah, so this, that's a good point. The time for feasibility study, we're gonna enter in as much information here as we can, in order to give an idea of where the grant's gonna fall. But it does not get finalized until the project scope and budget, which is the very last step before the vote.
Okay,
So.
I'm actually I'm heading you toward it, something I'm trying to, so Brian Ballantyne, our town treasurer, is also on the Zoom. I assume he's listening to us. He has not floated the bonds to, pay for the, feasibility yet. So I'm trying to make sure he's got enough information to know what he wants to float that bond for when he finally decides to do it. He didn't do it yet because so little had been expended, but at some point, these bills are gonna, well, he now knows, I didn't realize the architect, I should have, was a pro rata share of their contract. I should have known that. So he knows what that's going to be. Yours, he's probably got a good guess. So this will give him, I think, what he needs, if he doesn't already have it, to know what he wants to float the bond for, because he's going to float it for the what he thinks the net cost to the town is. And this is the
Ye-
temp bond to basically pay the feasibility study cost.
So as far as, yeah, borrowing in the bonding, we actually have a separate spreadsheet that we can provide as a cash flow to show what we're gonna need and when, and also factoring in the MSBA reimbursements. We always tell districts that to expect the MSBA payments to be a little bit behind us. So you don't want to expect the full payments every single, it's 39.5 on the dot. We usually give a little wiggle room there for if there's a delay in payments. But yeah, we'd be happy to provide that, a cash flow, so that everybody can see exactly what's needed for cash flow and bonding and borrowing.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
You are there. Good. I was testing you. All right, Andrew, you want to add anything at this? I still want to talk about this a little bit more, but Andrew, I'm talking.
No, I think, I mean, this is good to see the spreadsheet. I mean, obviously it's preliminary until we get some scenarios and start running some numbers. But I think the part that I was more focused on was the like the incentive points, which is, abstract. It's not tied to however much dollars you're spending. It's more abstract.
No, but
Yep.
I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. We've got some time here. So,
Yeah.
okay, now going back to the question you didn't answer a minute ago, which is 39.84 is fixed for the feasibility. It's in the contract. It's done. How do we determine the reimbursement rate for the actual project? How does that get determined, and when does it get determined?
So 39 that's the for the duration of the project. If we proceed to the next phase, project gets approved, that's your
Okay, so
reimbursement.
that's our
Yeah,
number. That's our number to start out with, right?
Correct.
That's our
we
base,
hopefully add-
our base
before we add on,
number, right?
right, before we add on points, we hope for other things. Okay,
Yep. So what this, and I think we touched on it in a previous meeting. This spreadsheet gets you to your effective rate. So you just said it's 39, yeah, 39.84. So it's 39.84 based on reimbursable costs. So the overall project, so say the project's $100,000 or $100 million, and 80 of it is reimbursable. It's 39.84 times that 80 million. That
Yeah,
other
we
20
get that.
million. So yeah, so your
We get the
overall
blended rate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you guys are finance people, right?
Kathy's a CPA and I'm a finance guy.
Yeah, so okay, I'll stop explaining it. So you get to your effective rate. And that can vary anywhere from, we've seen districts that they start at 40 and go down to 19 because of all the non-reimbursable items that they have within the project, or we've seen them come down by 5 points because they pretty much just stuck with the program. So it can vary, and it's all dependent on what's included in the building for square footage, for services that are all within what the MSBA will reimburse.
But doesn't it also depend on construction cost? That is, there's a cap on what they're gonna reimburse you. If we go over that, we gotta set
Yep.
that up.
Five
Yeah.
a square foot,
What's that,
Yep.
Andrew?
$5.50 a square foot.
That's
it's
what they're
550.
reimbursing right now?
Yep.
Yes?
They just,
Is
didn't they
that-
just increase it last year pretty
It,
good?
it was 375
Yeah.
through the highest inflation times, and it was, every district was jumping up and down saying that was that was about 10 years behind where we were. So yeah, they did just increase it to 550.
Okay,
So-
okay, now, Jim, what's the current construction cost of a building per square foot?
So we don't know that right now.
No, I'm just saying, if you look at schools being built now, what do you think the average per square foot cost of building in Massachusetts with all the rules we've got to and prevailing wage laws we've got to comply with? We use 750 in our model when we were
Yeah.
doing this a couple years ago. So do you think 750 is in the ballpark?
I think 750, yes. I think that's not too far off. I was going to say, 850. But
I'm
it-
asking, you know more than we do, so I'm asking what we should have in our heads
yeah,
right
I think 850 would be a good number to use for an elementary school. If we're shifting to a high school, it'd be a different number. But yeah, I think it would be a little better than 750. Anywhere from 850 to 950 would be the range.
now. That's a lot. 950, you could build the most luxurious house in the world for 950 a square foot. Okay,
Yeah.
so 950 to 550 is 400 bucks a square foot. That's a lot of money to be out of pocket.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. And that can be, and that's strategic as we go through the design process to try and keep that number within reason. So, yeah, so.
And you're
yeah, so we
saying
talk-
it's not gonna be 550? No way.
No,
Okay.
I'd be very surprised if it was 550.
Unless we can
actually-
somehow convince Kathy Assabet to build this school.
There you go. Our Habitat for Humanity.
There you go.
Yeah.
Our imagination here. Okay.
Yep. All right. So yeah, and I'll jump down to what we were just discussing, the reimbursement points.
Yeah, okay. This is what you
Yeah,
have.
the incentive points. So I'm kind of backtracking what I said before. That 39 is the minimum that you will get. There are things that you can do within the project to get additional points. So there's particular maintenance programs. If you can have a very defined maintenance program, which is, the HVAC services, every piece and part of the building. If you can, as part of CHIPS or LEED, there's enhanced maintenance that you can go for that feeds into this as well. So that's an additional, 1 to 2 points on your reimbursement.
Knowing our town and our school, we're pretty much on top of that. I mean,
Mhm.
how many schools actually, get 1 or 2 points there? I would assume we would be.
Oh, yeah, very rare. Yeah. You'll get at least 1 point from that.
Okay.
And if you guys are already set up very well for maintenance, you'd probably get 2, I would imagine.
Okay.
Newly
And
formed
do you
regional.
do any type of cost benefit to see whether getting that other point is worth it?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, if it's $100 million school, it's $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds,
In
so, okay,
theory.
so, all right.
That's bad math, but yeah.
mhm,
And if we're not, so to get to those points, you have to submit something, a plan to show the MSBA what your
Yep.
maintenance plan is, right?
correct. Yep.
So will we have time for the architects to sit down with the maintenance group or whatever to put together a plan that they could do that would work if we're not there yet?
Yeah, definitely. And this is down the road a bit. We have to get through the options and all of that. But yes, yeah,
I
definitely.
think,
That's
Kathy, we
Okay,
just
so we
need to
could
make
get-
sure we have a step in the plan that says ensure we have a robust maintenance plan, right?
Okay, all right, so maybe 2 there. Let's be optimistic. The next one, then we don't
Yeah.
qualify for, so forget that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
So if we were to reuse the building in some manner, there's a potential to get additional
Yeah.
funds from that or
Okay,
additional
so
points.
what does that mean in some manner? How much do you have to use?
So Kathy,
So go
to
ahead.
say for instance, we had thrown the idea of maybe keeping half of Neary, right? That would be about 27,000 square feet. right? So if you put 27,000 in the existing to remain. And then if we did, say we did I would just plug in some numbers. If we did the 305 students, it's 180 square feet per student. It's 54,900. That would be 2.46 points.
How did you know how many points to give for that, Andrew? What'd you do?
As you plug
So-
it in, plug 27,000 in there, Jim,
Okay,
and then roughly 55,000 in the next one. It's 54.9 technically. And then it just calculates it.
all right,
Yeah,
so it's
so-
half, you're saying we use half of what we have, right? And so we get half of the points, roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
a big extra number there, right? That helps.
Oh, that's a huge number. I mean, every point's $1 million, so you're right. It's $1 million.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Give or
the
take.
architects, when they come forth with the PDP in May, are they going to, I mean, who's telling them to try to use as much as possible, at least in one scenario, to maximize this?
So that's a requirement of the feasibility study.
have
So in
to.
the last meeting that we went through, you have to do an option that's base repair, addition renovation, and a new building. So the MSBA makes you go through each one of those. So you do have to study a potential renovation to see if it's feasible.
Okay,
So
so you
there would be
renovate the
one where we
whole
would have
existing
like
building.
renovate the building, right? Which would be basically keeping the whole existing, right? Then there's addition and yeah, okay.
Yep,
All right, so that will
exactly.
be one. And they never go, so that's what they're gonna do. They're not gonna say, do what Andrew did, keep half of it. That's not part of what they'll come up with?
It all depends on how the layout is, and you know, that's the design work. What works for the design
Alright.
and what's feasible. Yeah.
So they may not be able to keep the whole thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What they can, they'll look at what they can keep, the max of what they can keep, and that's what they'll use as far as a reno?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So, and they have to look at it, and you know, some buildings just, no matter what you would do to them, it just wouldn't work out, because we have requirements to meet with the MSBA as well for classroom size. You know, all the spaces in the building have to be within a certain range of square footage, and sometimes an existing building just doesn't meet those requirements.
Okay, the next one, Andrew and I, we know what that is. We know
Yeah.
that that's really kind of outside your scope and
But-
outside.
But I think the question there, like Jim, we're actively doing the MBTA zoning right now in
Mhm.
town. And, you know, I've been pushing and advocating and wanted to make sure this would qualify. Is the 40R zoning is very similar in density and requirements to MBTA. If
So
we put,
Andrew, your idea is to make the MBTA overlay also 40R, correct?
at least one of them,
Okay, and
It's-
that's
it's
all we
almost-
have to do?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking Jim. Like, I assume it is if the town has a 40R smart growth area within the town, check, you get 1 point.
Period.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know what the actual
I-
rule is.
Yeah, I mean, this is fairly new with the MSBA.
Okay,
So I would have to triple check before I
Yeah.
gave a definitive answer, but how I read it, that's my understanding.
if you could
So
double check before I go and try to get zoning passed by
Yeah,
town
so
meeting.
can we check on that soon? And
Yeah,
Jim, if you
definitely.
think that's beyond your scope, let us know, because it almost seems to be to me, but if you want to do it, great, but we need to get this resolved quickly. Because changing zoning is not easy anywhere, and it's really not easy in our town.
Jim's not gonna tell us how to do the zoning, but if he can tell us for the MSBA calculate that a 40R, whatever, I'm sure they have some kind of check, right? You need to provide them with some kind of documentation, or it's on a list somewhere or whatever. And they
Yep.
say, yep, you're good.
Yeah, I'll talk to our PM with MSBA. And yeah, just to verify, because how I read the policy, that's my understanding.
Mhm.
But it's fairly new, and I just don't want to
Yeah.
steer you, because like you said, every point is $1 million, so it's a big swing. So, okay.
Then the other one, I didn't quite understand how that differs from the 40R. Do you know what that one is?
So this is only a 0.5%. So overlay zoning 100 units or 50%. So I think it's saying you can get this on top of if you have a 40R.
Yeah.
So let me clarify that one a
Yeah,
little
because
bit.
I was
I
kind of
don't know.
thinking, because I was kind of thinking for that one, if we do an MBTA overlay zoning, that would be for well over 100 units.
Yeah.
Right. Would that get us the extra half a point? Again, that's
Yeah.
$500,000, right? It all adds up. But
Yeah.
again, that's
Let me get some
that's my
clarity
thought
on these.
process there. Like if we haven't, our MBTA is 750 units, right? So we're putting 750 units of overlay.
Okay.
Whether or not
Yeah,
we
let me get some clarity to this, and then I should be able to get that in fairly short order.
Yeah.
And
Thank
let
you.
you guys know. Okay.
Okay, now this was
Um,
a big one. So how do we get 4%?
So this is if you are LEED or CHIPS certified, that's a big piece of it. If you have net zero goals as well.
This is Kathy, where we need to, rely on Jim to be like, where's the law of diminishing return, right? If we're LEED silver, which only costs us, say, I don't know, $200,000 to be there, but we get 2 points, then it's worth it. If we have to go to LEED platinum and that costs us $20 million, right? Then it's, so it's where it's the.
Yeah,
So this is
ultimately,
where you really do need to do a cost benefit.
yes. And that'll be the study that the design team will go through. What's included, but this is a huge piece of it. The district doesn't want a $20 million plaque saying that it's LEED platinum. Like there has to be payback. And that's been our understanding. So
but for
yeah, so
estimation purposes, what do most schools get? At least a 2?
yeah, I would say 2 or 3. We have schools like Acton Boxborough was triple net zero, and so I think they were like 3.75. They were one of the higher ones, just because they had really high sustainability goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, an extremely important one.
Yeah. So Kathy, by my calculation, if we did that renovation and got the 2.45, we'd be looking at about 8 points on top of that.
So who's going to set we haven't talked about setting energy efficient goals, as far as I know.
So that's the first that we have the meeting on Monday. That's the presentation on Monday. They're going to start to walk through some of the sustainability features that could go into the building and what the committee's feeling is on which ones to pursue. We don't have to make the final decision on Monday, but that's actually the meeting on Monday that Arrow Street's going to come in and present.
But I would think you'd have to make a decision pretty soon, though.
Yeah, because it goes into
Your design.
Yeah, the estimates for the options as we start to walk through those. So yeah, I would say by short order, I'm saying, it's not Monday night that everybody has to decide what goes into the building, but yeah, by the time we submit the PDP, we should have a rough idea of what direction we're going and what sustainability features we're going to want to include in the building.
All right, so I agree with Andrew. 8 doesn't sound like it's impossible. 8 is $8 million if it's 100 million.
Yeah,
Probably more like 6 with the reimbursement and everything, adjusted, but
yeah. I mean, and I want to get locked on the value either, because this is going to shift all around, as far as what each.
Yeah, understand. We're not trying to look. We're just
we're
trying to.
focusing on the percentage, not the
exactly.
not the dollars.
Yep.
Okay,
But
now,
it's what, Kathy, about a 20% increase in our reimbursement.
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
in this town, $5-6 million is a lot of money, as Brian Ballantyne will probably chime in a second and agree. It's a whole lot of money. Okay, what do you mean by? I know what a contingency is. I know what is owner's contingency cap versus construction contingency cap.
Yep. So owners contingency, how they word this, they've worded this way forever. So owners is soft cost contingency. So anything outside of construction, you carry an owner's contingency, and then construction contingency is anything within the construction project. So it's 2 separate contingencies, and they cap you on what's reimbursable as a percentage of that of those 2 contingencies used. So
if we run over in either one of those, then what their piece of it is pretty small as far as what we'd have to pay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, and we always want to max out that, but yeah, it's
You don't
Yeah.
ever want to use contingency, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a balance, of there is reimbursement sitting in there, so you will need to, in any construction project, need to use contingency. But yeah, so it's just balancing those two things. So
Well, I know
um
that in our last big project, the public safety building, we ended up with a really good bid. We had a original estimate that was really high. Then we came in with a bid that was much below that. So we started off really well, but we definitely used a big chunk of the contingency. And I think it was 15% that was put there. I could be wrong, but it was a big contingency.
yeah.
And we
Well, there's
used,
project contingency and then there's reimbursable contingency.
yeah, but it sounds like we're gonna be stuck with most of the contingencies, as far as using it. If we use it, it looks like we're gonna pay for that, most of it.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you guys agree with that statement? Given that
Yes.
it's 2%? Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's 1% and 2%. And like you said, it's still reimbursement. You want to max that out, but yeah, that's what they'll participate in. And we do need to, on a quarterly basis, we submit all the change orders to them and they determine which ones are reimbursable, based on a couple of different categories. So with all of that, and again, there's a ton here. We could spend a couple hours going through this. What this all comes down to, when all of this is populated, is the maximum total facilities grant. So that is the maximum amount that the MSBA will give you. And what this also gives you is what the town share will be. So after all the information is input, that's what this document does. And your project scope and budget, which is your agreement with the MSBA prior to the vote and what goes to the voters as the appropriation, is based on that grant value. So when you get your project funding agreement after the vote, it's based on this maximum total facilities grant.
So when we go to town meeting next April, we really aren't giving the town any choices but one. Here it is. This is what we have come up with. This is what the MSB has agreed to do. You're either going to say yes or no to what that choice is.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
okay. The PDP that goes in May is going to look at all 12 choices on that matrix.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And is it going to have numbers associated with those 12 choices?
Yes.
Are there some that if we have compelling reasons, you don't have to go through all the exercise, or
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yeah, that's a good
The
like-
middle section.
yeah, at Woodward, if they're the deed
on the
you
space
can't,
or
yeah, then you just have to respond to that. So that's a good point, that any viable option we have to have we estimate, and that was kind of our discussion with the MSBA. Do we need to expend funds on an option that we know isn't going to work? And obviously their answer was no. So
Okay.
but in order to not provide a number, you have to have a ironclad reason why it's not feasible. So
Yeah.
And had they gotten to that point that they think Woodward's not feasible to expand, or are they still looking at it?
we're trying to pull all the deed information, and also just look at the site. So yeah, they're getting fairly close to that though.
Because, so Jim, the predecessor committee to get us to where we are tonight was what we call the School Research Subcommittee. And Jason Malinowski, myself, and another woman who's not part of this anymore was on it. And we had 2 demographic studies done, one by the group that does it for the school system, generally speaking, then another private group. We ended up using the private group's work. And I had thought, I just haven't gone back and looked, but I had thought that we thought at that point that we absolutely could add a grade to Woodward with its existing footprint, not expand it with its existing footprint. Jason is now saying no. Yeah, you can. You got a one student cushion. So of course you can't do it with a 1 student cushion. So something changed between that study and now, and I still haven't quite figured out what it was. I'm fine, rely on what people are saying. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about. But there was, at that point we thought we could add a grade to Woodward. Now I understand, we can't forget pre-K, so it's really 2 grades. It says, pre-K is not a full grade, at least for now, and then one of the other grades. But it looks like something changed as far as our thinking that we could do that. And I still don't know what that is. Do you?
I can't speak to that as far as any assumptions that were made previously.
So that's a
I-
Jason Malinowski
Yeah,
question.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
Kathy, it's just looking at the numbers you had probably versus what we agreed to with MSBA. MSBA's number might be a little more conservative than what you had, maybe. That's why I had to,
No,
if I had to guess.
we use the study's numbers in that. That's where they got their numbers. So anyway, there's just something that someone has decided that it just doesn't work for another grade. It may be the footprint. They looked at it closer. I don't know. There's just
Yeah.
a piece I'm missing.
Yeah, and as far as, I mean, the feasibility study, Arrow Street's gonna look at that space, and we're required to respond to it in the PDP, so that'll be a piece of it if the occupancy of the building isn't such that it can support an additional grade, so. Yep.
What's the date? What's the date of the PDP due date? May what?
May, do you have that in front of you, see?
May 15th.
Thank you. Yep,
So those guys are going to be busy.
yes,
Oh,
very
my
busy.
goodness.
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's lots of pieces that have to go in, and some is on us in the district, and so yeah, that's what we discussed that on Tuesday too, all the pieces and parts that have to go into it. So yeah, it's definitely a big pull.
All right, Andrew, anything else for Jim inside tonight?
The only one is Jim on the renovation piece. For that calculation, it looks pretty simple. It's just square footage to square footage. I wasn't sure if there's anything that gets factored in terms of eligible or ineligible square footage kind of thing.
Yeah, so
Total and total, or how that calculation actually works.
yeah, so within that renovation, if you have the district offices, so you have a 20,000 square foot, but 5,000 of that is in the existing building as district offices, which are non-reimbursable, you could only put 15,000 in that calculation.
Even if
As
you were renovating it, but just keeping it.
correct. Yep.
So that's what I was confused, where it's just like existing to remain, right? Is that
Yeah.
existing to remain? If the existing to remain, and we're not spending any money renovating it,
You still have to subtract it, it sounds like.
you still have to subtract it.
Yeah.
And do the architects know that what you just said is true? That we do have the superintendent's office in Neary? Do they know that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They know that. Yep.
And do they know that we don't want to lose that rent? So I want reimbursements, whatever, but we don't want to lose the rent either. So we hope we can figure this out as far as having our cake and eat it too on that piece of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Right.
at the same time, I don't want to spend $1,000 a square foot to build them an office space.
I mean, the Petrardier is very empty. Okay, so Andrew, anything else for our friends here?
No, I think that's great.
All right. Okay, so next meeting date. So guys, Andrew's, I don't know about you, whether you have children or not. April 18th is what I've got on here, but that is school vacation week.
Ah,
So okay, so I don't know how old anybody's kids. I know how old Andrew's is. She's not in school yet. Do you guys, does that interfere with your plans that week?
I have an 8 and 6-year-old, and we're going to Florida.
All right,
Sorry.
then let's move it. Yeah.
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
All right, so we will let's just set it for the 25th then.
Yeah, that works.
All right.
Good pick up there.
Oh, I'm used to that. Okay, plus it
yeah.
helps. me too.
Dial in from the beach, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right. Any other business that anyone wants to bring forth?
All set on our end.
Is there anyone in our audience? I don't think so. Okay, Andrew, you don't see anybody, right? I don't see anybody.
Nope.
Okay, so no public comment. Okay, so Andrew, you want to make the motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
And second, roll call vote. Andrew,
Aye.
Cook is aye. See you, everybody. Good meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And
Take care.
bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.